Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Today on CityCast Boise, how well do we really know the people around us? Matthew Allison, who is seen as a quirky local electronic music enthusiast, has been accused of creating and spreading violent extremist content that led to real-world murders. We're digging into the double life he led and why he chose Boise as his home base. It's Tuesday, April 22nd. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. Today, I'm talking with ProPublica reporter James Bandler about his recent investigation into a Boise man's alleged ties to an online right-wing terrorism network. Thanks so much for being here to break this down for us, James.
Oh, Lindsay, thanks for having me.
When local news broke the story that he was arrested back in September, I remember thinking that, we do have some extremists in the area, so I wasn't entirely surprised. But it wasn't until your piece with ProPublica and Frontline that it really struck me how wild this story really is. So I'm so glad that you're here to explain more. What sparked your interest in the story of 37-year-old Matthew Allison?
So ProPublica and PBS Frontline had been engaged in a year-long investigation of far right-wing extremism online on the platform social messaging and platform Telegram. And we had been looking at a specific group that was frequenting Telegram called the Terrorism community, and at the leaders of that group it's really a constellation of channels and group chats, and at the leaders of that who called themselves the Terrorism Collective. These were a bunch of people who weren't just racist, weren't just anti-Semitic. It wasn't just that they hated immigrants, but they wanted to kill these people. They wanted to foment a race war in order to accelerate the collapse of Western civilizations. And they called themselves accelerationists. And Matt Allison, AKA online, he was anonymously known as Ban This Channel, or BTC, was one of the, what prosecutors say, the leading creators of content for this group, which has been described as a transnational terrorist group by the United Kingdom, the U.S. State Department, and Australia.
And I know with these online spaces and different communities, and you mentioned it's a constellation of a network. Is there any sense or idea of how big this group was or how widespread they were?
It's not clear exactly how many people are adherents of the sort of belief system in this network, but these were scores, if not dozens, of channels with people around the world participating. And it wasn't just people watching and agreeing. It was people who took the advice, the coaching, the grooming of the leaders of these channels and then went out and committed crimes, including murders. So these crimes happened in Eastern Europe, they happened in Brazil, they happened in the United States. And what surprised us was the reach of this network and how rapidly the ideas spread.
The Justice Department has charged Matthew Allison with soliciting murder and hate crimes. What exactly within this network is he accused of doing or promoting?
So he's accused by the federal government of being linked to a series of crimes, including murders. And one was a 2022 shooting at an LGBTQ bar in Bratislava, Slovakia. It left 2 people dead and another injured. We did a whole story sort of detailing how the shooter, this man, Juraj Krajcek, was coached over 3 years by members of the Terrorism Collective, Allison's group, in a process that really started when he was 16 years old.
Wow. And so was Matthew Allison allegedly leading these discussions? Was he creating content? How was he coaching people to do these things?
So he's best known in the group for creating video content, for creating propaganda videos that extolled the sort of movement's values, which are get up off your computer and go out and commit an act of terrorism, do a bombing, kill someone, kill a gay person, kill a federal prosecutor. These videos were basically designed to motivate and inspire these acts. But he also was online in sort of a dual role with other Terrorism leaders, alleged leaders, in terms of encouraging people to not only look at this content, but then take action. He's accused of helping groom terrorists to commit these crimes. I should say he denies all the charges. He's pleaded not guilty, and he has, we can get to what he told me in the interviews.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just before we jump into all of that, because I want to do a deep dive into that, can you explain a little bit more about what Terrorism is? Maybe for people who aren't as familiar with Telegram or don't understand how this platform was allegedly being used by Allison.
Okay, so first we'll talk a little bit about Telegram. Telegram is a massively popular app, particularly outside of the United States. It's an app which blends sort of some of the best features of WhatsApp as a messaging service, and then also a social media platform like Instagram. So it's been used by pro-democracy activists and terrorists. It's been used by gun runners. It's been used by child pornographers. It's used for both good and evil, and that's partly and largely because of the ease of use, the ability a user has to create these huge public channels to broadcast messages, and also send encrypted messages, which is appealing to folks who want secrecy or privacy. And then you can have these very big chat groups in which you can people who agree with your message will gather to talk and to discuss, in the case of Allison's group, how to disrupt society.
What sort of promises have you made to yourself this year? Getting in better shape, eating healthier, saving more money, traveling somewhere new? What about discovering a new culture by learning a new language? With Babbel, you can do that in just a few weeks. I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast, and I've been learning Spanish with Babbel. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons, handcrafted by over 200 language experts, get you to begin speaking your new language in 3 weeks or whatever pace you choose. And because conversing is the key to really understanding each other in new languages, Babbel is designed using practical, real-world conversations. The Spanish I learned on Babbel really helped me on a recent trip to Mexico City, ordering in restaurants, shopping at the textile market, cheering on at the Lucha Libre, and I've been keeping it up since I got home. You're a podcast listener. I know that because you're listening here. I bet you'll love Babbel's new podcasts. On Eavesdrop in Espanol, which I listen to, you get to listen to a real conversation, then have the teacher host explain back to you. Then you listen again and catch everything. And you can even read along in the transcript. It's a really fun and effective way to learn. Let's get more of you talking in a new language. Babbel is gifting CityCast listeners 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Babbel.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
What does your mom want for Mother's Day? To feel close to you. So don't forget to give her a call. And a gift that can help you stay connected all year. An Aura digital photo frame. My mom lives in another state and I don't get to see her as much as I want to. I love sharing the meaningful moments in our lives though, like my oldest driving with their permit for the first time, or the kids' elaborate blanket forts. I can snap a photo or video and send it straight to her Aura frame. Aura was named Best Digital Photo Frame by Wirecutter, and after using one, I get why. It makes sharing moments with loved ones feel easy and intentional. Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. For a limited time, listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off plus free shipping on their best-selling Carver Mat frame. That's auraframes.com. Promo code CityCast. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. James, it was really concerning to me that somebody who's allegedly done such extreme things was able to hide in plain sight in Boise. I mean, he was a convenience store clerk. At one point, he worked at a downtown coffee shop and bakery. He was a DJ for house parties, and he was known to hang around Space Banana, an EDM club that I've been to. It's really disconcerting to know that somebody who was allegedly promoting these things could have just crossed my path at any time. How was he able to so effectively, it seems, exist in these two spaces simultaneously?
I mean, Lindsay, that was for me the most fascinating part of our reporting, and it was the most disturbing piece for Matt's friends, who most of whom had no idea that he was so full of hatred for minority groups, for immigrants, for Jews, and for gay people. In fact, the one of the very first conversations I had when I got to Boise was to share Matt's mugshot with someone who I'd been told knew him. And the person asked why I was sharing the picture. And I said, he's been arrested and he's accused of being a transnational terrorist. And the person sent me a message back basically saying, that's impossible. They must have the wrong guy. He's gay. And that was part of Matt's thing online, which was trying to get people to attack gay people, according to prosecutors, to kill gay people. And he celebrated murderers of gays. So for friends, that they were just shocked. They were convinced this couldn't be the same guy we knew. And the more we reported, the more odd it was, because the persona he had in his real world, non-online world, was that of a happy-go-lucky guy. No one ever heard him say a slur. No one heard him say really unkind things. He was just someone who liked to party, who loved music. He was an oddball, but he wasn't someone anyone could have pictured as a, quote, what prosecutors say, leader of a transnational terrorist group.
And I think that's something that I guess I'm struggling to wrap my mind around, is that when he was living in Boise, he was in a relationship with a man. He was part of the gay community here. When you spoke with him, did you get a sense of how he reconciles how he was existing in Boise and how he was moving in Boise with his rhetoric online?
Well, first of all, he said he could never tell the people in the Telegram community in which he, was saying all these things that he was gay, because being gay is verboten at best, and at worst, it could get you killed. So he had to keep that a secret from his online life. I think what was going on was just a really very big barrier, a compartmentalization, where he was separating these two worlds. And there were little dribs and drabs of his online life that some friends caught wind of, but no one imagined that he was this leader of a transnational terrorist group. No, none of his friends that I spoke to.
Can you dive into a little bit more, maybe what his friends have said that they saw, or it just seems so wild to me that there wouldn't be any signs?
Yeah, so there were little signs. Sort of very disturbing signs. One friend came across a Snapchat post that Matt had done, not under a pseudonym, in which he repeated a meme that is associated with white supremacists, and about the alleged prevalence of Black people to commit crimes. And it's a big sort of starting point meme for white supremacists, that Black people commit a disproportionate number of crimes. And the friend of Allison saw this and was shocked. He was like, what the heck? And he confronted Matt, according to the friend, and said, how can you, as a member of a vulnerable community, and I'm paraphrasing, be posting this kind of thing? And Matt said something to him that he thought very odd, which was, don't get me started about the LGBTQ community, or words to that effect. And the friends discontinued. He stopped following Matt on Snapchat, and then sort of didn't really think about it until he saw Matt later at a bar. And Matt said that had been a phase for him. He'd outgrown those beliefs. He was wrong. And so there were these little flickers like that.
Fascinating. And with this investigation, I guess another thing that concerns me, or that I just can't quite wrap my head around, is that he was able to go undetected within our community for almost 2 decades. I mean, were there no signs? Was there, nobody tracked IP addresses? Like, it just seems so wild to me.
So I don't think his radicalization really took full force until like 2018 or 2019.
Oh,
and
okay.
I think he initially would probably have described himself as a liberal person. And then he went through this process of online radicalization, which shifted him further and further to the right. It wasn't really until the 2020 plus years that his content veered just to accelerationist, to this sort of neo-Nazi advocation of violence, and bringing down society. And I think what probably, we don't know for certain, attracted the attention of law enforcement was that prosecutors allege he was a co-creator and a spreader of something that was described on Telegram as the list. And what prosecutors say was this was a hit list of targets for assassination, including federal prosecutor, a judge, writers, many of whom happened to be either gay, trans people, or Black, or brown people. And that, I think, if you target a federal prosecutor, or you're definitely, or a judge, you're definitely going to get the attention of the FBI.
Hey, CityCast. According to me and my calculator, you will spend more time this week between the sheets than you will at work. So upgrade your sheets to Cozy Earth. Luxury starts where you rest. I start my evening in buttery soft Cozy Earth bamboo pajamas. Then I dip into a Cozy Earth bamboo sheet set. They are silky and temperature regulating. Forget the 9 to 5. Prioritize your 5 to 9. Cozy Earth products will transform those hours into a sanctuary. And they take comfort seriously, with a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty. Luxury should not be out of reach, so Cozy Earth is giving CityCast listeners 40% off their best-selling sheets, towels, pajamas, and more. Visit CozyEarth.com and use the code COZYBOISE for 40% off, because you deserve a great night's sleep, and sanctuary awaits at Cozy Earth.
This Mother's Day, give mom more than a gift. Give her lasting comfort. I'm Tyler, founder at Cozy Earth. Our bamboo sheets and ultra-soft pajamas are crafted with breathable, temperature-regulating fabric to keep her cozy year-round. It's comfort that feels like home, because home feels like mom. With a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty, you know she'll be in good hands.
Go to CozyEarth.com/Spotify and use code Spotify to save up to 40%. That's CozyEarth.com/Spotify.
And you and your reporting colleagues actually spoke directly to Matthew Allison, correct?
Yeah, he was the first and probably, I think, only person of the Terrorism collective to speak with what they would probably loathe as the mainstream press. Yeah.
And I'm really curious, did he talk at all about this radicalization process, or what got him started down this road? Because I know that's more of a national conversation that's happening too, is this radicalization of people and how it's starting.
He came to believe everything he'd been taught about the world by the media was a lie. And that the further he went down the road of his research, the more convinced he was. that political action wasn't going to work and that you needed to step it up. Now, he would say, and he told me he was very, very careful online not to encourage criminal actions. And I am only speaking about what he told me in his justification. He said he had studied case law, including the Ohio versus Brandenburg decision, which basically allows the most inflammatory speech so long as it does not encourage imminent, violence or illegal activity. And so he said he was very careful online. Prosecutors would disagree, and that's going to be the central issue. I think if the case ever does go to trial, whether his content on Telegram was protected by the First Amendment.
And you wrote about how he describes himself or refers to himself as a, quote, artist. Is he trying to use that for his content creation as a defense for the First Amendment?
From my conversations with him and other people, I think he's going to argue that he was a documenter of what was happening in the world and an artist, and that this content therefore was protected. And I think that's going to be a difficult case for him, but this is going to be. It'll be very interesting to see what happens if this case goes to trial next year, as it's expected to do.
James, when you talked to him, did he mention why he was living in Boise, what drew him here, and why he chose to live here while allegedly being a leader within Terrorism?
He grew up in Paris, California, and he followed a good friend from Paris who had moved to Boise, and that's really what drew him to Idaho. And he just stayed. And I think, he liked the outdoors. He liked to hike. I think he felt very at home. It was also a place where he could be out as a gay man, whereas and he came from a very religious family, devout Mormon mother, and I think he felt like he couldn't be out, at least in his childhood, as a gay man, as a gay kid. His father said he knew he was gay, that Matt knew he was gay as early as elementary school.
So with Matthew Allison being arrested and where he was allegedly a leader in this Terrorism world, is Terrorism still a thing? Who's filled that role? Is there still messaging happening within that group?
I mean, so Terrorism has been very much disrupted by law enforcement. A slew of arrests of the alleged leaders of the Terrorism collective have really impacted the ability of this network to create new content. But the messages and the influence of it still lives on. I don't know if you've been following. We have a story on ProPublica about a 17-year-old Wisconsin man named Nikita Kassup, and he had recently been arrested for the murder of his parents. But what investigators also found on his computers was a manifesto calling for President Trump's assassination, and it cited multiple Terrorism publications. It urged people to read the writings of, one of the Terrorism network members who murdered these two people in Bratislava that I spoke about earlier. So the ideas of Terrorism, the materials, are still living online. And these ideas are like water. They will flow as long as there's an available tool to distribute them.
So, James, what's next in Matthew Allison's case? Where do things stand, and what can we look for in the future?
Well, he has pleaded not guilty to all of the charges against him. He is spending his time preparing his case. It is slated to go to trial, not this year, but probably next year. There have been some delays. And we'll see if the case does go to trial or if he seeks some sort of settlement.
James, thank you so much for all of your work in this case and investigating this so thoroughly. And then thank you so much for joining me to break it down.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. I really appreciate it.
That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. If you found this episode interesting and informative, don't forget to tell your friends about the show. We'll be back tomorrow morning with another great local story. Catch you then.